Hello my friends, today I'm continuing the recap of the Korean series Squid Game Season 2. If you haven't watched the previous part, you can find the link in the description and comments. In the previous episodes, Gi-hun was gassed again and transported back to the island.
Player 456, welcome back to the game.
While Noel returned to the games as a soldier with a triangular mask after witnessing the suffering of the street artist's daughter battling blood cancer. Let's dive into it. Junho plans to track Gi-hun using the tracker embedded in his tooth. Boarding the captain's boat with his squad, they head toward the island's location. Meanwhile, Gi-hun wakes up in the same dormitory from the first season. He notices a strange woman staring at him. As he gets up, she addresses him by his number and tells him she senses he is carrying the weight of many unresolved burdens.
I see the wandering souls trapped with you, unable to rest in death. You didn't come here of your own volition. Those vengeful souls dragged you here.
And offers to help him clear his karma once they escape. She claims to be a shaman. Their conversation is cut short as staff members enter the dormitory. A square-masked staff member welcomes the new recruits to the games. He explains that over the next 6 days, they will participate in 6 games. Some players begin protesting, outraged by their abduction, while others complain about the cheap and unattractive clothing provided to them.
Did you people strip me when you shoved me into this?
And where the hell are my shoes? God damn it, that pair was f***ing limited edition!
Look at this. The size is all wrong, and I hate the colors you're using. Can I have the outfit you guys are wearing instead? The pink's cute as hell.
One player, a man from the subway station whose girlfriend is pregnant, demands his phone back so he can monitor his cryptocurrency investments.
He yells,
Do you know how much money I've invested?
The staff member addresses him by name
Lee Myung-gi.
and begins recounting his debts. Lee is revealed to be the former owner of the YouTube channel MG Coin, which promoted a cryptocurrency called Dalmatian. His promotions caused his subscribers to lose a combined 15.2 billion won when the currency collapsed. Afterward, Myung-gi shut down his channel and vanished. Now, he is wanted for fraud. The staff member's speech silences him, leaving his girlfriend stunned to see him in the games. The staff member continues, pointing out that every player in the room is in severe financial trouble.
Total debt, 10 billion.
10 billion? Which one is it? Where?
What are you looking at? Think it's easy to get loans that large? They don't give out 10 billion to just anyone. You have to work in the big leagues for that.
He then gestures to the ceiling, where a giant piggy bank is. He announces that after each game, cash will be added to the piggy bank, and at the end of the games, the total prize money will be 45.6 billion won. However, this season introduces a surprising new rule. After each game, players will have the option to vote on whether they want to continue or end the games. If the majority votes to stop, the prize money will be equally divided among the surviving players. Gi-hun, surprised by this new twist, asks for clarification. He looks directly at a surveillance camera, visibly skeptical of the change. During the briefing, one player is berated by his mother,
Stupid idiot!
Ma? What are you doing here?
That's what I was gonna ask you!
who scolds him for participating in gambling games. Shocked, the player realizes that his mother is also in the dormitory. She joined the games to help pay off his debts.
Crazy! How could you drag an old lady into this? What if she were to fall or something? Aren't you guys liable for that? Huh?
The staff offers the players a consent form to sign for participation. Gi-hun steps forward to sign and carefully examines the rules. The updated consent form now includes 4 rules. First, a player is not allowed to voluntarily quit. Second, a player who refuses to play will be eliminated. Third, the games will be terminated upon a majority vote. In case of a tie, players will vote again. And the new 4th rule, if the games are terminated, the prize money will be divided equally among the players. As the players line up to sign the form, 2 men approach Myung-gi, pressing him aggressively. They reveal they are former subscribers to his channel and had invested significant amounts of money into the Dalmatian coin based on his advice. Furious over their financial losses, they demand he repay them, threatening violence if he refuses. Myung-gi brushes them off, coldly explaining that their investments were their own decisions.
Whenever you're investing, in the end, it's up to you to make the final call based on your own judgment.
Afterward, the players are led to a hall where their photos are taken. One player recognizes player 230 as the famous rapper Thanos. Word spreads quickly among the younger players, and soon a crowd gathers around him, begging for selfies.
Hey, you want to get in on this too? Come on.
A staff member intervenes, reminding them that only one person can take a picture at a time. Meanwhile, in the control center, the players' pictures are displayed on the floor. Upon seeing a transgender player, an elderly woman turns to her son and curiously asks about the girl.
Someone's originally a man, but they transition into a woman after a while.
I don't get why a man would want that though.
Shh, quiet.
You're one or the other. That's just the way things are.
Say that, Mom, here.
On the way to the first game, Gi-hun is approached by his old friend Jung-bai, who is shocked to see him alive. Jung-bai explains he hasn't heard from Gi-hun in 3 years. In the meantime, Jung-bai has lost his business and gone through a divorce. Gi-hun sternly advises him to take the game seriously and to stay behind him once the game begins. Meanwhile, Junho and his squad approach the source of the GPS signal. The captain expresses concern about Junho's heavily armed team, prompting Junho to explain. He reveals that he found someone who survived the games, but the guy was abducted and dragged back to the games. However, they managed to implant a tracker on him. As they get closer to the island, Junho explains that there must be infrastructure, such as roads and helipads supporting the games. They land and track the signal to its source, only to find a fisherman with the tracker in a can of worms for bait. The man confesses that someone at the dock handed him the leftover bait without explanation. Meanwhile, the players are brought to a large field for the first game, red light, green light. Feeling uneasy, Gi-hun discreetly checks his fake tooth and is alarmed to discover the tracker is missing. He quickly realizes he's in serious trouble. In the control center, the front man is approached by an officer in a black jumpsuit who informs him that everything is ready for the first game to begin. On the field, Gi-hun stands in front of the players and warns them that this is no ordinary game. He insists that anyone who moves will be killed. Most players think he's crazy.
We're all gonna die playing red light, green light? Really?
But his stubbornness and serious tone begin to sway a few. Some players accuse him of trying to frighten them to gain an advantage in the game.
I think he's just trying to freak people out. Then he wouldn't have to share the money, he could win all of it.
Hey, you bastard, you're not fooling us!
Meanwhile, Thanos flirts with a girl, mocking Gi-hun and making light of his warnings. As the game begins, Gi-hun takes charge, commanding the group on when to move and when to freeze. He cleverly covers his mouth with his elbow to prevent the doll from detecting his lip movements.
Hold still!
The front man observes the game while sipping alcohol and listening to jazz played by eerie mechanical dolls.
What the hell are you doing?
Is this a friend of yours?
No, never met him.
The game progresses smoothly until a bee lands on the neck of the girl Thanos is flirting with. Thanos points it out, causing the girl to move. A gunshot rings out, and the girl collapses with a bullet through her head. 196 eliminated. Proving Gi-hun's warnings were correct. Gi-hun quickly orders everyone to remain calm, but panic spreads among the players. One woman begins screaming and is immediately eliminated, setting off the chain reaction as several players try to flee. Chaos erupts, and many players are killed before Gi-hun manages to calm the remaining group.
Hold still!
The game's mechanics are revealed. The AI-powered doll detects movement with trackers in its eyes and announces the numbers of those who move to snipers stationed around the field.
Player 188.
The snipers then eliminate those players within their line of sight. Among the snipers is No Yule, who is stunned to spot the father of the sick little girl, the very reason she agreed to return to the job. Gi-hun explains that the doll has trackers in its eyes and suggests forming lines to use each other as cover while advancing. Meanwhile, Thanos sneakily pulls out a big-ass Christian cross with a hidden compartment filled with tablets. He swallows one of the tablets, visibly lifting his mood. It's baffling how the staff allowed him to bring such a conspicuous item into the game. I suspect it was intentional. Feeling emboldened, Thanos begins intentionally pushing other players, seemingly for his own amusement. The pregnant girl struggles to keep going, visibly weak and unsteady. The old lady tells her to stay close, promising to take care of her. As the players inch forward, everyone moves in fear, except for Thanos, who gleefully enjoys the game under the influence of his Infinity Stones. Gi-hun and Jung-bai eventually make it to the finish line. However, a player near the end moves when another girl collapses on him. He begs for his life, explaining it wasn't his fault. A sniper shoots him in the leg instead of killing him outright, intending to keep him alive for organ harvesting. The injured player cries out for help, and Gi-hun, moved by his pleas, runs back onto the field to rescue him. Player 120 joins Gi-hun, and the trio makes a daring run for the finish line. They cross just as the timer reaches 0. However, as they celebrate, No Yule shoots the wounded player square in the head, shocking Gi-hun and enraging her colleagues involved in organ smuggling.
Hey, number 11. Was that you?
He lost, so I took him out.
Jesus.
After the game, the surviving players return to the dormitory, shaken by what they have just endured. Meanwhile, the soldiers, including No Yule, retreat to their quarters. Meanwhile, on the boat, Woo-suk suggests searching the nearby islands using their drone. However, Junho points out that they were likely intentionally lured to this area, and that the real island is probably in a completely different location. The captain, noticing a storm front approaching, suggests calling it a day. Woo-seok, still confused, wonders how the game organizers discovered the tracker.
How'd they know he had a tracker in his implant? Did one of you guys go get drunk and blab about it last night?
Back in the dormitory, armed guards enter the room to congratulate the winners. The Square Mass staff member announces that out of 456 players, 91 have been eliminated. It's hard not to notice that, thanks to Gi-hun, the number of eliminated players this time was reduced by more than half compared to the previous season. Some of the players start begging to leave, promising to pay off their debts on their own. The staff clarifies that the games are not meant to force players to settle their debts, but to give them an opportunity. Gi-hun proposes voting to end the games. The staff agrees, but first unveils the prize money. For each eliminated player, 100 million won is added to the prize pool, bringing the total to 9.1 billion won. They explain that if the games are terminated now, each remaining player will receive about 25 million won. Some players are disappointed by the relatively small sum.
Serious, man? Come on, we almost died.
And express their eagerness to play more games to increase the prize. The voting begins, with players voting in reverse order. Gi-hun, being player 456, votes first, pressing the X button to quit the games. The shaman woman starts shouting her bizarre statements about fate and destiny.
No matter how hard you try to fight it, you'll never be able to escape your fate.
After voting, each player attaches a corresponding patch to the right side of their chest and stands in the area marked with their choice. During the process, many players vote to continue the games. Gi-hun pleads with them not to risk their lives for money, urging them to think carefully. Some players accuse Gi-hun of trying to manipulate them through fear.
You kept going on and on about how we were all gonna die, and I got so nervous that I was almost killed out there!
But others defend him, pointing out that many survived thanks to his leadership. The tension rises as Gi-hun reveals that he has played these games before.
Played these games before! I said I played these games before!
And that everyone who played alongside him was killed. Player 100, Jong-dae, who has the largest debt of 10 billion won, argues in favor of continuing the games, noting that they have the winner of the previous games among them, so there's nothing to fear.
We have to end this right now, so we can get out of here alive! Everyone!
Starting now, we will not permit any action that interferes with the voting process.
Ironically, Gi-hun's words backfire, convincing some undecided players to vote to continue. After the lengthy process, the votes are evenly split. It all comes down to the final player, player 1. He approaches the voting machine and hesitates for a moment before casting his vote. To everyone's shock, he votes to continue the games. As he turns around, and surprise, surprise, it's the frontman himself, In-ho. In the next scene, the staff incinerate the bodies of the eliminated players. One coffin is marked with a blood cross, indicating that the body is to be harvested for organs. A little later, the remaining players are served food. Jung-bae tries to cheer Gi-hun up, telling him that things aren't as bad as they seem, and that they can walk away with more than 20 million won after the next game. Gi-hun, however, responds grimly, reminding him that no one except himself survived the last games. In-ho joins the conversation, asking Gi-hun to help them survive the games. He adds to Gi-hun's guilt by claiming that Gi-hun is the reason he voted to stay.
You're the reason I ended up voting to stay. It's true. After the first game, I thought I was gonna quit. And then I saw you. And I thought to myself, one more, then I can go.
Gi-hun feels disheartened by this. In-ho then asks about the next game. Gi-hun says the second game in the previous season was Dalgona Honeycomb and advises them to choose the easiest shapes to increase their chances of winning.
And which was the hardest one? Umbrella. Umbrella? Whoa.
In-ho mocks Gi-hun, slyly mentioning that the players who chose the umbrella shape were totally screwed. Perfectly aware that Gi-hun had been one of them, the group starts discussing tactics, and Jung-dae suggests keeping this information secret so more players will fail the next game, increasing the prize pool. However, Gi-hun firmly opposes the idea, stating that the only reason he returned was to save as many players as possible. He vows to warn everyone if the next game turns out to be Dalgona. Meanwhile, the elderly woman treats the pregnant girl with her egg, explaining that eggs are excellent for pregnancy. She reveals that she's delivered many babies in her neighborhood and can confidently tell the girl is pregnant.
I knew from the minute I saw the shape of your body and how you carried yourself. I could just see it. It's not what you think.
She advises her not to compress her belly, warning it's too risky at this stage of gestation and that she should stop trying to hide her condition. The frontman asks Gi-hun why he returned to the games after winning 45.6 billion won. Gi-hun explains that he doesn't feel like the money belongs to him.
What point is there in thinking about it like that? After all, it's not like you killed anyone yourself, and that way of thinking won't help bring any of them back to life.
Growing angry, Gi-hun accuses player 1 of voting to continue the games, claiming it's because of him that they're all stuck here.
True. I was the last player to press O. It wasn't just me, though. There's 182 other people who wanted to stay here.
Yeah, and 182 more of them who wanted to get the hell out of this place.
If I hadn't pressed O, if I'd hit X and we'd all gone home, you think they'd appreciate what I've done? If one of these people ran into me years from now, do you think they'd say they were happy I voted to go? That they ended up with a great life after all?
Jung-bae intervenes, attempting to de-escalate the tension by urging them to focus on their next move instead of blaming each other. Player 388 introduces himself as Dae-ho and asks to join Gi-hun's team. He admits that he was impressed by Gi-hun's performance during the first game.
Hold still! That was awesome!
The team hesitates at first, but when Jung-bae notices a Marine's tattoo on Dae-ho's shoulder, he quickly accepts him. Jung-bae, also a former Marine, bonds with Dae-ho, and the two quickly become friends. Meanwhile, Thanos and his new minion continue pressuring Myung-gi for their cryptocurrency losses. This time, they openly beat him in front of everyone. Despite the growing tension in the dormitory, none of the players, including the two Marines, dare to intervene. The frontman In-ho steps in and calmly asks the bullies to stop. When Thanos threatens him, In-ho effortlessly overpowers them, forcing the young men to beg for their lives. In a moment of barely restrained fury, In-ho nearly kills Thanos but stops himself. It's evident he harbors deep, hidden pain and anger. The other players applaud him, calling him a hero. Meanwhile, Jung-bae discreetly hides his Marine's tattoo. Later that night, In-ho notices Gi-hun awake and approaches him for a conversation. The two apologize to each other for their earlier argument. In-ho then begins to share his real story, but he speaks in the present tense, as if his wife was still alive.
My wife back home is very sick.
He reveals that his wife was diagnosed with acute cirrhosis and desperately needed a liver transplant. During her hospital stay, they discovered she was also pregnant. Despite the risks, she chose to keep the baby, even though it could cost her life. Struggling to find a donor, In-ho borrowed money from everyone he could, but it was never enough. One of his oldest clients heard about his situation and offered to help by lending him money. While it wasn't technically a bribe, it appeared suspicious, and In-ho was fired from his job as a result.
After I'd given them my best years.
Entering the games became his last hope to save his wife and unborn child.
I know what you meant, Mr. 456, about the prize money. What it costs. I really do. But still, I have to win that prize money, even if the cost is other people's lives. I want to use it to save my wife and our child. And I don't care how I get it.
Meanwhile, some guards are harvesting organs from eliminated players. This time, however, they managed to salvage only eyes, as most of the organs have decayed too much due to how long the players had been dead.
What are you talking about? I left a bunch alive for you.
The guards noticed something unusual. Many players appear to have been intentionally killed after being incapacitated. One of the guards who had shot a player in the leg realizes this must be No Rule's doing. They immediately report the incident to their commanding officer, who also happens to be involved in the organ smuggling operation.
The ones without fatal wounds were shot again to confirm the kill, so there's not much usable merchandise.
Who fired those shots?
I think it was number 11.
No Yule is summoned to the officer's office. A guard escorts her there, where she is ordered to remove her mask. The officer reminds her that he explicitly told her not to interfere unless she was willing to assist with their operations. She refuses, claiming she was simply doing her job. The officer recalls the day he first met her 7 years ago. She had been lying in a hospital bed after an intense ordeal. He had been told that No Yule had killed an entire team pursuing her with just one rifle and managed to cross the heavily fortified demarcation line on her own. He reminds her that he gave her this job and that she should be grateful for the opportunity.
And I'll always be grateful for your help, sir.
Then you should do what you're told.
Sir, I don't think I will.
He assumes she's worried that the frontman will find out and reassures her that this time everything will go smoothly, as they've hired a doctor as a guard, unlike last time when they relied on a player to perform the surgeries.
There's no way anyone's going to find out about it, and even if they do,
That's not my issue.
Then what is it, huh?
Despite his attempts to convince her, No Yule stands her ground and leaves the room. Back in Seoul, Junho visits his ex-boss and asks for help in finding the mysterious island.
I need you to help me, sir.
Okay. At this point, what else can I do, huh?
Look for that stupid island again or something?
Yeah.
Not this shit.
Together, they approach a general to request a search squad. The general, however, dismisses their request, scolding Junho for bringing up what he considers nonsense and demanding evidence.
Chief Kim.
Sir.
Why is he back on this? You said he'd improve.
He accuses Junho of being mentally unstable and storms off. Jun-ho calls Woo-seok, and together they desperately plan to hire another boat to expedite the search. Captain Park secures a vessel, captained by one of his trusted friends. After the phone call over drinks, Woo-seok reveals everything he knows about the games to Captain Park. Meanwhile, Gi-hun has a nightmare, haunted by guilt over leading the players. In the dream, everyone follows his advice and picks triangles in the Dalgona game, only to discover it's an impossibly intricate and complex triangle. The players start blaming Gi-hun for leading them to their deaths. He wakes up in a cold sweat just as the time for the next game approaches. Jun-hee, the pregnant girl, approaches her ex-boyfriend.
Shuni! So you really didn't know I was here?
She confronts him, explaining that she thought he had been ignoring her for 6 months. He's shocked to see her there, and even more so when he learns she didn't go through with the abortion she had planned. Furious, he berates her, saying they can't afford to raise a child without money.
How the hell is a pregnant woman gonna survive here?
I'm not asking for help so you can quit acting all worried. Why start now?
As the staff arrive, he promises to talk once they get out of the games.
I already tried to go. I couldn't because you wanted to stay.
Meanwhile, Thanos swallows one of his Infinity Stones again, and his minion notices. The players are taken to a playground with 2 large rainbow-colored circles. The announcer declares that the next game will be played in teams of 5. Jung-dae angrily yells at Gi-hun, accusing him of misleading everyone about the Dalgona game.
What are you gonna do about everyone who voted to stay because of your crap?
The frontman stands up for Gi-hun, silencing Jung-dae. Gi-hun's team is now short 1 player and must find someone to join their group. Myung-gi approaches Jun-hee and offers to team up, but she is still upset with him and refuses.
Look at you. You think anyone else will let you join?
What's it to you, huh? I'll handle it on my own. You ignored every one of my calls for 6 months. I thought you died, ass.
I get it. I'm so sorry.
I don't trust you. You're nothing. You're dead to me.
Instead, she asks Gi-hun's team to accept her, explaining that she needs their help because she's pregnant. Meanwhile, no one wants to team up with the old woman and her son. Left with no other options, they team up with Player 120 and her new friend, as Player 120 was also rejected by everyone else. The shaman joins their team as well. The announcer declares that the game is a 6-legged pentathlon. Team members will have their legs tied together, and at every 10-meter interval on the track, one member will play a minigame. If the player wins, the team advances to the next minigame. The minigames are Dakshi, Flying Stones, Gongi, Spinning Top, and Jegi. The total time limit is 5 minutes. The team must assign each member to a specific minigame. It's revealed that Gongi is traditionally a girl's game.
It's good we got a woman on our team after all. You play Gongi, right?
But the pregnant girl admits she doesn't know how to play it. Surprisingly, the Marine guy confesses he's skilled at Gongi.
I can do Gongi. I can play it. A Marine who knows Gongi?
Because he grew up with 4 older sisters, the rest of the team members choose the games they feel most confident in.
I'll do whichever one you think, Yoon.
How did you know my name?
Your friend over here. I heard him call you that, so I thought I'd try it out too. Does it bother you?
No, I don't mind it.
The game begins, and the first 2 teams start to play. The initial game, Dokji, is the easiest, as it doesn't take much time to recover if you lose a round. However, the second game, Flying Stones, is more challenging, as players waste time retrieving stones when they miss. Gongi demands good agility, requiring players to catch stones multiple times in a specific order. If a player loses, the game resets to the beginning. As the time limit approaches, the tension rises, making it even harder for players to focus and pass the games. Spinning Top also proves difficult, as it takes a long time to recover if the top falls. The first 2 teams fail to reach the finish line before the time runs out, resulting in their elimination. Thanos' minion asks him for one of his Infinity Stones, arguing that if he gets nervous, he might screw up the game and doom their entire team. Reluctantly, Thanos hands him a pill. When the staff cleans up the area after the eliminations, Noel notices 2 guards mocking a coffin with a still-alive player inside. As a higher-ranking guard, she orders them to open the coffin. She promptly finishes the player with control shots, an action that irritates both the organ smugglers and the officer. As the next teams prepare for the games, one of Player 120's teammates starts panicking. Player 120 introduces herself as Hyun-ju and skillfully calms the girl down, giving her the courage to proceed. Her words lift the spirits of all her teammates, and they begin introducing themselves to one another.
I'm Jang Gum-ja, and I lived through the Korean War, so I know a few playground games won't kill me.
And I'm the son of Jang Gum-ja, who is a survivor, Park Young-sik.
Sonja, Shaman of the Sea.
The game starts, and their team reaches the Dokji game. Young-mi loses several rounds and begins to panic. Once again, Hyun-ju steps in, calming her down and suggesting she flip the card in her hand. The advice works, and they advance to Flying Stones. At Flying Stones, one teammate misses the target. They pick up the stone, and following Hyunju's orders, the team moves backward without turning around, saving precious time. Observing players take note of this clever tactic.
Looks like you save a lot of time if you don't have to turn around.
Gonja motivates her son with encouraging words, saying,
Try to imagine that stone is the face of the conman who swindled you out of your money, all right?
With her support, he successfully knocks the stone down. The crowd erupts in cheers for the team, further fueling their determination to succeed. Gonja tries her best in the gongi game, but loses her first attempt.
Hurry up! You'll have.
Now, her son motivates her with encouraging words.
Mom, didn't you always say during the war you used to play gongi with bullets?
She nearly completes the game, but freezes before the final and most challenging move. Once again, young Sik finds the right words to boost her confidence.
Ma, think of it like this. Try to pretend that's the hair of that bitch Dad cheated with.
And she finishes the game with ease. Next, the shaman takes on the spinning top game. Struggling to wrap the rope around the top, she panics and fails repeatedly. Frustrated and overwhelmed, she begins praying to her gods and eventually bursts into tears. Hyunju steps in with a different tactic, snapping the shaman out of her panic with a series of motivational slaps.
If you give up now, I'll kill you before any of your damn gods can.
Refocused, the shaman successfully wraps the rope and passes the game. Now it's Hyunju's turn. The rule for her game is simple. She must bounce the toy 5 times with her feet. She asks her teammates and everyone around to turn around and not watch her. With her focus unwavering, she completes the task on her very first attempt, allowing the team to cross the finish line just 1 second before time runs out. The team's dramatic success inspires and motivates the remaining teams. More teams successfully finish the games, but tragically, some do not and are eliminated. As time goes on, only 2 teams remain, Gi-hun's team and another. Gi-hun's team quickly clears the Dokji game on their first attempt. Jung-bai follows by easily knocking down the stone in the Flying Stones game. When it's time for the girls' game, Gonggi, Daeho surprises his teammates by completing it with flying colors, leaving them in awe. Meanwhile, the front man, who is left-handed, intentionally spins the top using his right hand, stretching the game's duration. At one point, he even throws the spinning top back to the previous line, pretending to be frustrated with himself. As time runs out, he finally spins the top correctly with his dominant hand, completing the task. In the final game, Gi-hun takes on the challenge of bouncing the toy. He starts strong, but on the 4th kick, he accidentally sends the toy too far. The frontman saves the game by subtly manipulating Gi-hun's foot, which is tied to his own, ensuring the team doesn't fail. They cross the finish line just in time, while the other team is tragically eliminated. This concludes episode 4. Watch the next part by clicking on the end screen, and let me know what you think about the second season in the comments. I'm eager to hear your thoughts.